everyone, and welcome to the American Scouser podcast, Monday nights, and we are finally all freaking here. After meeting in person, somehow we managed that, but the virtual get-together never ended up happening until today, but sadly, it's after a miserable weekend overall. So we'll talk a lot about that. Bickler, still supporting the stash. What's happening?
What's happening? We're in the middle of a tropical storm down here, so I had a great time canceling client calls and a lousy time picking up kids from school early.
Sounds like a fun day in the North Carolina over there. And Gally is with us. Gally, what's happening?
We do not have any of those tropical weather patterns up here, but yeah, it's kind of crazy. We're back together. I think it's been like 4 or 5 shows since the three of us were actually together. Like, I think we did 1 show since the season started. And then there were weeks you couldn't make it, weeks Bickler was rotating, weeks me and Bickler were in the bleachers, weeks I'm losing my phone, just all kinds of crazy ass shit that happened.
I wish it was like cool shit too. Like, I wish it was because we were doing book signings and stuff, but it's like, it's just been like,
no.
I think you have to write the book first. I don't know if that's, from what I understand, that's how that works.
Everybody
you have to write the book first.
Everybody who's listened to this program long enough knows there is 0 chance any of the three of us are writing a book. I'm not sure we could write a memoir. I'm not sure we could write a note to our significant others.
A coloring book? Understand. Maybe we can make like a coloring book of us in different.
We can make a coloring book to allow the people when they come to our petting zoos to fill out when they hang out with us.
By the way, speaking of petting zoos, I forgot to mention this in the morning show as well, but it's more of a miniature petting zoo where you just get to pet me. But if you are going to be at the Fan Fest in Chicago this coming weekend, would love to, like, especially, like our regulars or any follower, really, shoot a message, send a message my way. Would love to kind of like get together and meet over there. We'll be there Saturday, obviously, for like the Liverpool game and stuff like that. And then actually going to the city on Friday, because I do not want to drive in the crack of dawn. We'll kind of make like a night at the city with the wifey and then go to the Fan Fest the morning after. So if you're going to be there, shoot us a message, let us know. We'll do, like, I'll try to bring a coloring book. I'll be signing my own coloring books, and I can get you like an autographed copy on that day. But let's get to the actual. Shelton is saying, how was the rain? It's
wet.
I wish we had some rain over here. It is hot as fuck.
No, it's crazy. Yeah, we had Wilmington was this morning. It's better now, but we were underwater. Roads closed. It was pretty wild, actually. And in true Wilmington, New Hanover County fashion, they let everybody drive in the middle of the storm to school, and then canceled school at 10 after 11 this morning. And it was like, guys, they're already there. Like, yeah, it's anyway.
I hate it when they do that sometimes in Chicago. Like, the storm is coming. Like, everybody in the world knows the storm is coming. So why are you telling us 2 hours after, like, oh shit, the storm? Yeah,
it's
the
like
storm that was on TV yesterday.
They literally waited for all the major roads to close to like cancel school and then tell you to come get them. Like,
yes, unprepared. Similar to how Liverpool looked going against Forest. So obviously, sadly, we get together for the first time once the winning streak comes to an end and the boys lose at home. It was a really, really painful watch. Bickler, we'll start with you. What the hell happens? Where do you put let's make that freaking pie. Where do you put the biggest slice on that? Like, really, really miserable performance. It was literally painful to watch.
I put it on having international breaks for absolutely no reason. Like, that's what I put it on. I feel like when you come off international break, I was telling Gally this in the last pod, like it feels like a game of Mario Kart and you're racing towards the finish line and you're doing good and you get shelled with one of those red shells right towards the finish line. You stop and all the other teams pass you. Like, that's what international break always feels like. It feels like a major disruption in any sort of momentum every time we have one. I just thought, I thought these looked like a bunch of dudes that got off an airplane, and I know they weren't all gone, right? But that's what it looked like. I mean, when you talked about the match before this one, I think we were all like, man, that is the sharpest this team has ever looked from a passing standpoint. Remember that? It was just like boom, boom, boom. One touch football all over the match. And it was like the opposite of that. Like, we couldn't hit a guy 4 feet away. Like, and it just looked like a bunch of dudes that were still sleeping. And I kind of put that on the international break. I don't know. Like,
okay, let me ask you this, because I it's not like I disagree, but I think that the thing that bugs me is because we were kind of talking about this in the post match as well. This is not the first time these guys are going international break.
For sure.
It's going to happen in October. It's going to happen in November. I can understand where you have like a normal scheme of things and it gets disrupted. You're kind of a little fucked up and it affects you. But when it happens almost every other month, if you have like a business trip, but you're doing the same trip once a month, you would get used to doing that trip and adjusting it when you come back. Why is it that we can't seem to make that adjustment? Because this is a regular issue.
I don't think it's a Liverpool issue, though. If you look at the rest of this league and you watch all those matches, it was pretty gross all the way around.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think what you saw, like, here's my thing: if we're gonna play poorly and lose a match, that's how I want to lose it. Like, I thought if you put the passing and the quality aside from like just a footballing quality standpoint, you look at the rest of that match, fairly well dominated. Got put out on one play where Hudson-Odoi caught on this side. We didn't close it down. And he hits a banger, right? Like, I mean, if you're going to lose, that you want you at like no point did I like outside of a 10-15 minute stretch there in the second half when Forrest made some, I thought, really impactful substitutions when they essentially took their wide players out and just put a shit ton of pace into the side, right? With Hudson-Odoi and Elanga. Like, I thought that was it. I think the frustrating thing to me is like they made that adjustment and we didn't counter it, right? Like, so I think that was the big thing. But I thought for most part, we controlled that match. We got caught out on a banger. If I'm going to lose a game, that's probably how I want to lose it.
Yeah, honestly, when they made those substitutions, I was saying this morning too. I really thought we hustled them into thinking they can get 3 points out of this. I was like, yeah, once they come out now, we might be able to score, but it never happened. Brian says I had a bad feeling when the unchanged lineup was announced. What did you think when the unchanged lineup was announced? Because I'll be honest, when I woke up and saw the lineup, my thought was, oh, okay, so we're going full force in the league. We're going to rotate more in the Champions League, which I was totally okay with. Let's get the 3 points was my thing. But what were your thoughts? You see the lineup.
I didn't have an issue with the unchanged lineup. I thought there should have been a change or two. Like, I think that you could have, and I don't want to get into which player. I think you could have started Gakpo or Nunez for Jota. He hasn't been great. And he got 3 league starts in a row, and it was okay. And he went off on international duty. Nunez didn't leave, so I thought maybe that might put him in the frame just for a start at home because we had a big match in the San Siro, and I thought he might rotate a little bit. When he didn't rotate at all, my bigger concern was in the midfield, to be honest, because we've seen this thing before where McAllister comes back after playing 120 minutes and 2 long-ass flights and comes home late and then plays like crap for 45 minutes. And he did it again. And he didn't look great. It didn't help that he had, Yates just absolutely battering him from the start of the match, but that was also in the cards. So would I have rather maybe seen Yates beat up on Curtis Jones, a fully fresh Curtis Jones, and not Alexis McAllister before a really big match 48 hours later? I think Slot might have started to literally read the clippings a little bit of like, I'll be the first manager ever in the Premier League to get 4 clean sheets in my first 4 matches and 12 out of 12 for Liverpool and all these things. And I think it was an important way to go for it. I think there was a rotation piece or two he could have made. And I will say we'll get to the goal being scored, but there had to be a little bit of like, you must have been a little bit disheartened to know Trent was in the midfield and he couldn't be blamed for that goal. And it was the right back making poor defensive decisions that replaced him at right back.
Yeah.
After, to be fair, he played a good game, in my opinion, defensively. I thought Trent was one of the
he was fine.
It might have been the fine player, and that's about how bad we were. Trent was one of the fine players, and therefore he was one of the ones who didn't look bad because the people in front of him on the right-hand side, in Szoboszlai and Mo, they were really, really bad.
Yeah, I think it's all relative, right? I mean, when we look at the players, I thought, Gravenberg had a good game, for example.
Yep.
Ali, I don't know. Like, initially, based on his body language, I thought that was going wide. And then when it went in, I'm like, what the hell he's doing? But then you watch the replay and you're like, yeah, I mean, he can take that shot forever. It curls. He doesn't see it till late. And so, yeah, in terms of the decent performances, I think it was all relative. How about you, Bickler? I mean, I agree that there were some possible rotation pieces that could have been done. Nunez was probably the easy one because, like you said, Gally, he didn't play. Mecca, he didn't play. He didn't play the second game. It was more about like, is he okay enough injury-wise to play? So I would have been okay with a couple of, rotation pieces. But I find it hard to go back now and say, oh, it was the starting 11 that was the problem, which is like what people were trying to make it in the post-match, even in the pre-match press conference today. Whereas I feel like that's unfair, Bickler, because I'm talking in terms of personally, when I saw that lineup, I was like, we're going all in the Premier League.
If we would have rotated, people would have been bitching that we should have gone stronger 11. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
the thing.
Yeah.
This is hindsight stuff, like I think I do 100% agree with Gally on McAllister, though. I feel like they should be written in the bylaws of the club that when he has an international overseas flight, he doesn't play for 48 hours. Like, that should be contractually.
I'd also say Robertson, too. Like, we should give Robertson the first half off after every international break because Scotland makes him work 3 times as hard as any other player is required to play.
I guess they don't even entire Robertson versus Costas.
You watch Scotland, they don't play with the left back or left winger. They just put him on the left and say you're doing both. And I think to Sir Z's point in the chat here, right? Like, this is my thing about this entire situation. I mentioned this, may have been at some point in Dreamland in the 24-hour pod, but I made the comment like, with the Onslaught system, love it. Love the control. Love how like it's possession oriented and it feels much more comfortable. Like you've got a real foothold on the match. My question has always been, what does this system look like when you are a goal behind? And I still don't have an answer. So like that's the thing that makes me a little bit nervous.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, forget from being behind, it just felt like, and he admitted to this, that we just, for the possession we had, Gally, we just did not create enough chances. And I've been saying this over the last 2 days. If Nunez misses the sitter that Jota did, everybody will be talking for hours.
Killing him.
Yeah, I mean, you expect Jota, but he probably has earned the right to miss a sitter because he's normally like a finisher, so it's not like you can harp on him for that. But aside from that, we really did not create enough chances. It's one thing to keep the possession, but it's another to kind of convert that possession into chances. And it feels like when we came, the pass before the pass never happened. We always used to talk about like Thiago and stuff, right? Might not have the assist, but had the pass before the pass. And it felt like whenever we got that chance where, hey, one pass when we're in a good situation, that pass never came. It was behind. I thought it was too fast. It was too slow. Is that just tired legs? Is that just Forest closing down? What is it?
Well, I mean, I think there was just a little bit of tired legs. I think there was just a little bit of I don't want to say like mispurpose energy, but like Mo is atrocious. I mean, how many times did Mo pass the ball and it was like 4 feet, 2 feet, 3 feet off? Like he's passing the ball and these are like little diagonal passes into the middle to create 1-2s and get play going. We run the ball through Mo. We've always talked about this. Our offense runs through Mo, whether he is the focal point of scoring or creating. We run things through his channel. If Mo has a bad touch, if Mo isn't connecting with 8-yard diagonal passes to Soboslai in the middle of the pitch, like I don't know what we can do. And to me, it just felt like every time we were building something, there was a misplaced pass or a improper run or just like a bad touch. And I know I got killed in the Discord channel for criticizing Diaz in the first half for taking the keeper on after he creates the play down on the byline. Here's the thing. I'm all for you created the opportunity. You have the opportunity to take the shot. Well, if you're going to try to beat the keeper short corner, you have to score. You can't ricochet off the post and not score when there's 3 guys, including 2 wide open on a cut and 1 across the 6-yard line. If either one of those, if we score in the first half at that moment, I think it's a completely different game. And to Paul's point, we do need to score. We do need to get our goals from in front. I just think that we have to be critical on these players. And to me, they made the wrong pass in the final third 80% of the time. And it's been a long time since I saw it be that poor. But I think sometimes you have to finish these opportunities. We were given opportunities, in my opinion, maybe half chances in the first half. We didn't take them. And I think it gave them 1 chance in the second half. And to Paul's point, he hit a worldie.
Yeah, I laid low during this goal. I didn't miss that conversation. I personally don't have a problem with him taking the shot. I know Brian says, should always go for the best scoring opportunity, but that box is so crowded, man. And the way those passes were going, I had no problem with the shot. And it is a good shot. It hit the post. So it's one of the rare ones we had on target for.
Whoa. It's a good shot now when it hits the post, but when Darwin does it, it's an absolute tragedy.
Especially for a guy who is hot.
No, it was a joke.
For a guy who's hot and scoring, I had no issue with him taking that shot. I didn't say, oh man, he was wide open over there. But I mean, in some ways, like with Mo and stuff, there were a couple of times where I felt like his pass was good. Like, why is Szoboszlai coming into the box, whereas he was wide open in front of it, and Mo passes it to him to take a shot, and Szoboszlai is running in, and then Szoboszlai doesn't run in. This time Mo passes it inside. I was like, what is going on? Like, it just felt like Bickler, they were never on the same page. And James is talking about, the subs. I thought Barmaker, the subs were odd. It almost felt like, to me, the subs were already scripted, especially the 60th minute ones, because otherwise I didn't see why Diaz would come out in that time. It almost felt like, hey, you got 60 minutes, then this guy comes in, similar to what we do in like the FA Cup games or like the rubber Champions League games and stuff.
Well, you're chasing a match, right? Your unused subs are Kwanzaa, Gomez, Endo, Keller, right? I mean, that makes sense. What else are you going to do? So, I think it goes back to the fact that if, here's the thing that I think is bothersome to me about this. You put your first starting 11 out, right? You're chasing a match. You need impact. You need impact off the bench to go ahead and get back in this match. I think, and this goes back to previous conversations we've had before, right? I think this is really coming down to the fact that, Nunez is not the player yet that we need him to be. We don't have a striker. We don't. We have a goal poacher in Jota. We have a left winger in Gakpo who would sometimes play as an attacking midfielder centrally, right? Almost in a false 9. And that's it. And then we've got Nunez, who's a project still, right? And I think there's just no there's no central force that you can put up there and say, hey, here's a talisman goal scoring. And it's because we're so used to these goals going through Mo and stuff. But it all kind of accumulates in this thing. And I think this is why when Szoboszlai doesn't play well, it looks so fucking bad because of his proximity to Mo. And so I think sometimes when he's below average, it looks worse because of the proximity to Mo. But it all really comes back to when you look at this bench, I don't know who else people wanted to sub in, right? Unless you're thinking, oh, we're chasing this match, we're going to keep the same starting 11 in. But then you get in the Klopp territory where all right, you're not changing anything and you're expecting a different result. Right? You can't do that.
Yeah.
So I think it's more
offensive subs. We used all our offensive subs. I mean, really, we had them. We used what we got. Apart from Kesa, I don't know who else we've been able to use. I agree with Brian where he says, sadly, this was a match Harvey would have had an impact. And I agree. I mean, because I think he's the only natural sub you have to Szoboszlai. Maybe we could have tried Jones there and bring him in earlier because you could tell Szoboszlai was struggling. That's probably my biggest concern out of seeing that. But I mean, at the same time, Gally, it's hard to judge these subs coming in while they did not make an impact. It was such a shit show in terms of cohesion. It's hard to throw other new guys who have not played with this 11 for a while, aside from coming off the bench, to make that impact and help make that cohesion. I feel like Nunez gets lost in a like a stacked up defense anyway, because he doesn't have the space to use the speed or anything like that. But I mean, even like Gakpo, I mean, whoever we put in, I just find it hard to judge them because it was kind of like a shit show that they entered. It was really going to be very, very difficult for them to change it unless they score like a miracle goal or something.
And I honestly think that was kind of why I thought one of the two might get a start to give them a chance to try to work their way into playing with these guys and get into it. We've talked about Nunez before. Like, yes, he had the great heroic moment against Newcastle. Other than that, there aren't like great Nunez moments from the bench. Like, he normally starts a match, finds his way, and does something. It could be bad, it could be good, it could be just comical, and we talk about it for weeks. But to me, Szoboszlai was so poor. His touch was poor. His passing was poor. His defensive work was good, but even the work he did defensively wasn't good. Like, his effort was good, but when he was making tackles, he wasn't getting the ball. He was creating fouls. But I thought his runs into the box were so naive. They were constantly like 2 steps too forward, and the ball would be behind him. And it's like, wait, your job is to be the midfielder, to run into the box. And like, you know what made Frank Lampard great at scoring cheap goals? He was always in the right goddamn place a midfielder was supposed to be to score a random ass goal.
Kind of like Gundogan, basically.
Yeah. Gundogan, Lampard, I mean, Jared at times, but he scored such great worldies. I don't want to compare, but like, I'd always watch Lampard and he'd glide into a box and you'd see him score and you'd be like, why is that asshole there? And it's like, because he's supposed to be there to score that goal. I don't think Szoboszlai knows how to do that. And I think at times that was the most frustrating thing for Mo. And to me, it seemed like Mo by the end almost was bypassing Szoboszlai on the passes. Yeah. And he was trying to skip him over to get it to Gravenberch, which is when the ball was getting intercepted constantly on the 18-yard line. And I'm like, I swear to God, if Mo passes one more time to their center back, I'm going to lose it. And Szoboszlai kind of just moped. And I think to Paul's point, I think being down Harvey hurts. But this also speaks to not strengthening that area or having more options maybe from the midfield. Because if you're a one Harvey Elliott injury, a guy who's gotten 11 minutes of Premier League play so far, like if that's what you're hanging your hat on, why you lose a 1-0 match to Forest at home, like maybe the side is a lot weaker than we thought from a depth perspective. And this was a bigger question about who we really are compared to what we thought we were 2 weeks ago when we whooped United up and down the pitch at Old Trafford.
I think one of the elephants in the room is if Darwin Núñez was purchased with the thought in mind that this guy has an incredible ceiling as a striker, and we know he doesn't do well off the bench and he struggles to find his feet in matches off the bench. The more that we see him coming off the bench and the more that we see him not starting, I think the further away Darwin gets from being a part of this side as like a legitimate option going forward. So
but didn't we say last year, like, I don't know, early in the season, especially, that we would rather have Gakpo start and have Núñez come off the bench?
I think that was before we saw how, like, I just think we have such a huge, like, litmus now of seeing this not work with him off the bench. Like, I really think that he needs to start to be able to find his feet and feel this game. Like, I think that's, like, he's so much better when he starts than he is off the bench. But that's the problem. Like, if you're not going to start him, like, and he doesn't do well off the bench, like, what are we doing with him? Are we just thinking that this is a training thing and eventually he's going to get to the point where he's an option to start and then find that? To me, like, I just can't get over the feeling that this is the beginning of the end for him.
I think he's going to start tomorrow. I know it's crazy and we'll get to tomorrow, but I actually think he's going to start tomorrow because I think we've talked about this. I think European football suits him better. I think Italian football with the speed of their center backs. I think he starts tomorrow. I don't know if it'll go good, but I think he starts tomorrow because I think Jota has been outside of 10 minutes where he scores a weird little volley and then has that amazing little touch pass to Diaz. I think Jota has been, as the Prince would say, absolutely Jota over 4 matches.
Yeah, I don't know. See, I feel like that's kind of harsh on him as well. He's done a lot of good stuff. And really, when you go back to what's Victor's talking about, that is what you need from your striker, right? You got to be able to say at the end of the game, goal there, assist there, job done, thank you very much, kind of a thing. Especially with this system, I feel like. But Shelton says he needs a 10 behind him. I'm assuming he's referring to Nunez. It'll be interesting to see, because I do agree with you, Gali. I do think we see him starting tomorrow. But to finish off this game first, Bickler, do you think this is a one-off where everybody was shit at the same time? Or basically it's going to be a two-off. Next time in October, we have the other international break, like October 11th or something like that. Is it just a one-off where everybody was shit on the same day? Or is there something in the system that's going to make it hard to play against these low blocks?
I'm not going to say it's a one-off because I still have reservations about whether this team can turn on the juice when it needs to offensively, right? Like, that's my main concern about this. So, like, I think it all just lives and breathes by, like, the midfield. And I think if the midfield doesn't play well and you couple that with a Mo who's off pace or off the mark, then we have serious issues. And I think if those two things become widespread issues, then you're going to have a patch of form where this is going to be a thing where we struggle to score. And I think, the good news about that is we've seen what this side looks like when it struggles to score, and it's not been great because we concede. The great thing is that we know that it's a lot harder for us to concede even when we struggle to score. So I don't want to say it's a one-off, but I feel a little bit better about it, right? Like, because I thought, like, even though we weren't at our best, I thought we still controlled that match.
And it feels like, Gally, that, if we were slightly better, like we were in situations, so we did still put ourselves in situations where a properly made pass would have created a chance. We were always like one pass short. Whereas, I mean, especially like you look at like the last 10, 15 minutes, for example, where it's almost like we're out of ideas, like Trent is throwing a Hail Mary like from midfield, like not constantly, and we're crossing when we normally would not and stuff like that. But overall, it still feels like, look, I mean, we were talking about it this morning. There are only so many teams in this league that's going to play exactly like these guys. Even when it is the recipe to beat this team with get the long ball, don't dwell on the ball like United did. Because really, that's how we scored against United as well. Play the long ball, don't mess around in the back, let them have you break you down. Regardless of this recipe being out there for success, there are only 6-8 teams that will do this, because there's another like 6-8 teams that probably should do this but don't. And they will still like try to build from the back and kind of like walk into the trap. But I almost feel like even within this, I was semi-optimistic that there were so many situations where one more pass and we had like a clear-cut goal opportunity, that it feels like this team still can create with this new setup.
I think we showed we can create with the new setup. We just showed that you have to be clinical when you have opportunities to put the last ball in. And we didn't do it. I mean, I cited the two chances in the first half where Mo lays the ball backwards to Szoboszlai and he's 3 feet further than he should be. If not, it's like pretty much like a straight on shot. There were two other opportunities where they had chances in the second half. Mo missed Gravenberch, I think it was, at one point, and then they had that like 4-on-1 where they don't get the ball out wide to Gakpo right when he comes on.
Yep.
And then Gakpo's running around like in a circle to get the ball before it goes out into the – and I'm like, I'm just losing my shit. Like, it was comical at how poor they were. But it was almost just as comical as soon as the social media comments start rolling through, because the same 3 or 4 players get blamed. And I didn't see many people bashing Mo, and I didn't see many people bashing Szoboszlai. And like somehow Nunez is like, anyone who saw that today saw that is why we can't win with Darwin Nunez. I'm like, he played 20 minutes, and I don't know if Gakpo ever touched the ball while he was on. The closest he came to touching it was running around in a circle to put his foot on it and stop it for a throw-in for the other team. Like, it just feels like these narratives at this point have actually filled themselves.
Did you see any on Gomez? Like people trashing it. Gomez is.
Well, I mean, I was waiting for someone to be like, and that's why Kelleher should have been sold.
Yeah, I mean that's like typical, right? And I feel like the same thing about the starting 11. That's why I asked you guys, because I don't think any of us had a huge problem with it. We were more like, well, what's going to happen on Tuesday then? Like, we had no problem with the Forest game. Like, we were like, okay, this is good. So this takes care of this. What are we going to do on Tuesday? So to come back after seeing the results and saying, oh, we should have done this, we should have done that, I feel like, yeah, it goes back to what Bickler is saying. It's just hindsight, Monday quarterback, all that kind of good stuff. So tomorrow, so we go back to the Champions League away to Milan. Aside from what I talked about the squad, and obviously now you're going to have some rotation, Bickler. How does this game affect the Champions League game psychologically? The Forest loss. Does it affect it at all, or different tournament, different attitude, kind of like everything changes?
I guess I'm always on the mindset of like, at this point in the season, I feel like sometimes a loss before a game like this is a good thing, because I think it like activates I think it activates a sense of urgency that I think you can't lose if you're going in 4 or 5 on the trot, winning pretty comfortably, right? So I'm hoping it just creates a sense of urgency with these guys that like, hey, we need to come out and be sharp and really smart mentally, like because that I feel like there's almost that team played like they had brain fog, like that's what it felt like. So hopefully, like we see obviously sharper passing, better movement, like better communication. It didn't seem like anybody was really like pulling the strings, like remember these great Liverpool sides where you had Henderson essentially out there just conducting, like there was none of that, like so I hopefully that creates some sort of sense of urgency with this team.
Well, when we say that, then Gally, doesn't it almost make sense to make minimal rotation and tell the starting 11 to go out there and play like how they're supposed to play, and maybe change? I mean, I'm thinking like the Nunez change you suggested, probably maybe Kwanzaa. It's almost like take out these people that get injured regularly, like Jota, Konate, and stuff like that, but keep the rest of it mostly intact, so you can say go out there and play like we're supposed to play.
I think you can do that, but I also think you have to be careful because you are trotting these guys out off on 48 hours and a trip to Italy. It's not like they've had a huge amount of rest. They did play a high energy match, and a lot of them played a good chunk of it. I could see Jones playing in this match. I honestly don't know for which of the 3 midfielders he'll get the start for, whether it'll be Gravenberch, Maka, or Soboslai. I only see him making one change in his midfield if he makes any. So like I don't see Jones and Endo coming in for 2 of the 3 starters. Like maybe he'll start Jones, maybe he plays Endo, but I don't think he makes a massive change there. But I think he feels inclined to make one change at each of the 3 levels. So let's say it's Nunez, Kwanzaa, and then one in the midfield. And I would assume
Let me ask you that for
probably
the
Jones.
Boslai spot. I mean, aside from Jones, who can you substitute there? Unless, like, for example, you put Endo in and you're pushing. I was going to ask you that. Do you gamble and put a player like Gakpo? I just worry about the defensive work rate because Soboslai does a lot of it. And like you said, I think this weekend we saw, and I even said it on Discord, he was doing his best Gravenberch impression because when his attacking play is poor, that frustration comes to his defensive, and he's trying to win the ball back, and he's kind of like being over aggressive and causing fouls. But do you worry about that if we put Gakpo over there in terms of like leaving the other 2 out to dry because Gakpo's going to track back as much as Soboslai does?
I would be a little bit worried. I'd like to believe though that like Slot has kind of instilled in any of these players he's going to give a chance to, that they understand what their responsibilities are. And I was critical at times of Gakpo last year in midfield when he was playing in Klopp's 4-3-3. And, you guys assured me that I was probably being over hyperly critical at the time, that he was doing a pretty good job for what he was being asked to do. So, we've seen him play. He's played that role for the Netherlands. He's played that role at PSV. We like him on the left. Let's not kid ourselves. But if he's going to start Diaz out there, and he did take Diaz off at 60-minute mark, which makes me think Diaz is starting on the left wing tomorrow. I do think Chiesa will get to play. I just think he'll get 10, 15 minutes to run Mo off the pitch because let's all be clear. The one guy you can slot in to start tomorrow on Arne Slot's birthday is Mo Salah. on the right wing. He is starting that match.
Who do you like better in Szoboszlai's spot? Curtis Jones or Gakpo?
I've never seen Curtis Jones in that spot, so I'd kind of like to see it in some ways, but I get nervous that he would immediately be like, I am Curtis Jones, otherwise known as the Scouser Ronaldinho. Let me show you what I can do as a number 10. And that probably might not end well.
Yeah, Brian says Maka. I feel more confident
I like Maka in
Jones
every position
up there than Jones as the double pivot. I just don't. I mean, from what we've seen in the preseason, I almost feel like Jones took a step back in terms of playing smart, and he started doing that Ronaldinho thing that Gally's talking about. If he can take, because you can't turn the ball over there with the Jota, says James. I mean, again, the defensive work rate wise, I'm okay with Gakpo as long as he can hold that. I thought he did well last year, but Bickler, did he do well last year when we played in midfield with a handicap built in? We were like, he did good for a striker playing midfield, or did he really do good for midfield?
I don't know. I think that we're overhyping the fact that it's like, I think that we're talking about it like it's a static 10, and it's not. Like, that's my problem with it.
Yeah.
Like, it is more of a like an 8. Yeah. And so for me, it's like, I think you got to be really careful when you do that. Like, I think this just goes back to the fact that, like, even in this system, which I know does not suit him, I'm higher on Endo than a lot of people think for this spot here. Because for me, like, Endo at least gives you one of the pivots that can drop comfortably back between the center backs. Like, and it not have to be Gravenberch. And, like, for me, it's like, if I'm looking at putting in somebody here and subbing in somebody, and, like, I think you can make 2 changes to this midfield because of Endo. So, like, I think Endo allows you to do that. So, like, I don't know. It's just curious because when I think about Jones, right, like, I think that Jones doesn't really fit into that role. And I think he doesn't really fit into the other holding role. But I think he does fit into the other side, like that third midfield position. That basically is a 6 and a double pivot and then a 10 in possession. So, like, I think it allows you to do that with him if you want to. I think it's interesting. I'm higher on Endo as a candidate that I use here than most people.
Yeah, I think that's one we go back and forth on. But I am okay with, like, Endo in that role. I honestly think tomorrow's midfield will be Gravenberch because he almost feels like can't be replaced right now. And who thought we would say that? Along with Endo
John.
And basically John. Yeah, aside from John, nobody said that. Yeah. Buying all those stocks while they were available and low. But
he got them high, people.
Oh,
They're
yes,
on their
he
way
does.
up.
I mean, I would say Endo Gravenberch with Jones. I honestly think Jones can do it good at that spot because we know he can do the defensive work. He will run and track. And I think he can move. One thing that if he moves the ball fast, and I think that's what we were lacking. And so I'm going to come to this now because I know. And the moment I saw freaking Bradley come in and Trent not come out, I was like, here we go. And of course, messages, tags everywhere. like it was like a Batman signal. They're like, Tim, he's going to midfield. What did you make of that, Gally? And I will admit, I even said it this morning, as much against it as I am, I still don't think this was a fair shot at it, the situation he was thrown into. But I still feel like we saw a lot of the things that worries me when he's there.
Yeah, well, I will say this. As a person who started to see that substitution happening at the 57-minute mark with Trent and my fantasy team, I started saying, why the fuck are you taking Trent out in the 59th minute? And then when they started passing the ball around, and I was like, oh, they're going to run this past 60 minutes. I'll at least get this clean sheet points. And then Ali kicked the ball out of bounds. I'm like, you son of a bitch. We're doing the sub now. And then he doesn't come off, and I'm like, oh, shit. Now we're going to have to talk about Trent in midfield. This might be worse than taking away the 4 points. Yeah, so I don't think it meant anything. I think it was Arne Slot doing something he doesn't ever want to do, and I think he was chasing a game. He always subs in young midfielders. He always gets in his fullbacks. We talk about it. He
Yep.
subs his wide players. He subs his mid or his fullbacks. That's what he subs every single match. He did it again. In this case, he just said, "Hey, for once we are behind. We are not ahead. We are not taking the most creative player off the pitch. And I am not taking the guy I want taking every set piece from now till the end of the game." Because if you guys have seen Andy Robertson take a set piece, we all should have seen the last set piece he ever takes. Because I'm not sure he has missed the first man on a corner in a year and a half. Yet he still keeps taking set pieces. And I know Costas's one set piece in the match was abysmal. But again, that's another thing I think we have to talk about. Virgil had 2 or 3 chances with his forehead on balls that should have been on net. And if they're on net, there's chances that it creates something, and they're not. So, like, him and Konate have to get better on set pieces. With him, Gravenberch, and Konate, you should be dominating on major set pieces. And I don't feel like we're capitalizing enough on that. So, to me, the Trenton midfield, this isn't the match to judge it on.
No,
But he's
it's
not a midfielder. He's a right back. We just saw him spend 2 weeks for England, finally playing in a position and being the man of the match twice in a row, playing like he did for Klopp. Well, I wonder why. Lee Carlisle was like, unleash the best player we have.
Yeah.
Good things will happen. And he actually defended pretty well for England, too.
You hearing this, Brian? You hearing this crap? Because Brian says, I think he was looking for a spark. Trent was almost, I mean, we were kind of like loaded up over there, and they were really, like kind of like protecting the lead at that time. So we were all in their half of the pitch. But I mean, Bickler, at the end of the day, was it like a Hail Mary by Slot to throw in midfield? So Trent says, you want a Hail Mary? I'll throw a 5-6 over here myself. And then we kind of like wasted a lot of the ball, and it was really slow movement on the ball.
I think Trent Arnold's best position being a midfielder and him being a substitute into the midfield when you're chasing a match are 2 entirely different concepts that are not even related.
100%.
This is closer to Stephen Colker being substituted as a striker. Like this is what this is close to. Right? Like,
Romero ended the game as the auxiliary striker yesterday for Tottenham.
right.
They were trying to get a goal, and they were like, let's put the most dirty, largest, biggest dude who might kill someone in the box. Who could knock Gabriel down, seeing that he takes the ball every time we kick it in there? Like, let's do that. And I feel like that's the Stephen Cocker to throwing Trent in midfield. Like,
right. I mean, if you're making a sub here, right? You're looking at that bench. Are you subbing off the one guy that can make a pass that's going to single-handedly unlock a back line? Probably not, right? So throw him in the midfield base. I have no issue with it. But I think
why make the sub then? I guess that's my thing. If you don't think you're going to get more out of him now in midfield, why even bring Bradley on? Keep him as right back? Or was the midfield that tired? He just I mean, Trent just played 2 games.
So it's back to the fact that I think Galley's right. I don't think he wants to make two new, like, I don't think he wants to change 2 parts of the midfield midweek. Bottom line. Like, that's what I would do, but I don't think he wants to. And I think the substitution pattern sort of supports that argument that he's not going to do.
I think he also maybe thought that Bradley could create some overlaps with Mo on the right with the way Bradley plays, and now you have the 3 of them in like kind of a triangle creating. And I think he saw that the only thing they had going was the right-hand side and maybe something crazy. And I genuinely think like the leaving Trent on was for like the worldy, and you bring on Bradley because he does inject energy. And I think if someone in the comments talked about, is that Bradley's first mistake? It's not his first mistake. He's had a few young man moments. He's had a couple this year already too, where that bloom has come off that rose a little bit defensively, where he's just over aggressive early. He comes in, he kind of takes the wrong route at balls. His positioning is questionable at times. You can see that he's a good defender, but I do think that like he wants Bradley to be a big part of this setup moving forward, because I think he sees Trent playing 70 minutes of most matches and then taking 20 minutes off and finishing matches with Bradley. And I think in this case, we didn't have the lead for once 70 minutes in. So we weren't going to take off our most creative player. And I think we should get used to seeing this. I think this is going to be how the only time we see Trent going into midfield, in my opinion, is when we're chasing a match. I don't think he'll start a match all season long.
No.
under Arne Slot in midfield. And if he does, we have major injury issues or we have major tactical issues.
I can't put him previous time. He's giving away a goal. He's giving away, situations. I mean, any defender, I think, is going to. This game for Bradley, I think, stuck out probably the most that I'm like, holy cow, he looks.
I also think that type of goal is like the easiest type of goal for a fullback to give up. You're directed, like, you know, your job is to turn that guy inside, right? And if you're a half step too late and he like happens to hit a worldie, like what do you do there, right? Like, it's almost as much on the center back to come up when you turn him inside as it is on the fullback.
And I don't disagree. Oh, sorry. I wasn't going to disagree about like specific goals. My more mistakes is that I've seen him more or less apt to pick up a yellow card in the first 2 minutes of being on a pitch, whether as a sub or being over aggressive early in a match. Like last year, I think it was the Arsenal match where he got an early start and he like cleared out a player in the first 3 minutes. You're like, you're a 19-year-old kid just picked up a yellow card on the road in a big Premier League match. You can't do that. Like, that's a mistake, even if it doesn't lead to a goal, because it changes the way you defend. And I just think that comes with experience. So I just think once again, we overhype these young players when they come up, like they can do no wrong. And I think, like, I always joke, he's wearing 84 for a reason. He's earning a better number in the squad.
Yeah, I mean, he's a young kid and he's a defender. I mean, any defender is going to make a mistake, especially when they're that young. And I think sometimes because he's so eager to do those overlaps, his, you know, situational defending kind of gets like distorted and stuff. So he says, I think it was a desperate sub going back to the Trent thing and hoping for a Hail Mary pass to find his mark. And I think that's why I'm saying it's unfair to evaluate Trent on that, because I think it puts Trent in a situation where he took it as, oh, I got to create something. It's all on me when he went to midfield. And I thought we really did not put pressure on him like we should have the last 5-10 minutes. It just did not feel like we were threatening as much as we should with the amount of time we had on the ball and stuff, because he was just kind of like looking for these perfect passes, or he was on the ball too long. So it's kind of hard to bring a low block when the ball is in one situation, everybody's facing it. So but yes, so hopefully we won't see that for a long time, because hopefully we won't be chasing a game for a long time. But we do know over the next few weeks we're gonna understand a lot more about how Slot does his rotations. And he did say that this is new to him, Bickler, which was kind of concerning. Before, I think it was like the Friday morning press conference, like, yes, I'm gonna have to learn. This is new to me and stuff. I was like, this is, how new is this new? Like, you do not know about this, or you thought there's something?
It was new to Jurgen last year too, so it's okay.
I was just gonna say
to it. So, what do you expect to see tomorrow and moving forward? Like, will he just go as strong as possible and rotate when he has to? Because it's just felt like that based on the Saturday lineup.
Well, I'm going to tend to agree with Galley's assumption here that it looks like he's going to probably make a change on each line, right?
Okay.
Defensively, midfield, up top. I don't see a world in which he makes two changes up top. Based on the substitution patterns, I can't see a world where we see two different midfielders, even though it makes sense to me. So I think you're probably going to see 3 new guys in here. And then relatively strong the rest of the way, I think, here.
How about you, Gally? So, like, one in line. Do we make 2 in the back? Do we keep?
No, I think it's going to be 1 in the back. You're not going to like it. I think he's going to start Costas at. I think he's going to start Costas, or hopefully Gomez, but I think he's going to start Costas at left back. I think the reason for that is I think he'll let Konate and Virgil, who have been an overall really good center back pairing since they've been put together, play this match together. And I think it's also because I think he'd like to give I think he gives Kwanzaa the start against Bournemouth at home in the Premier League to kind of give him his way back. I thought he might get a start this week, Kwanzaa, just randomly coming out of the international break, because he played so well for England as well in his short little cameo. But I think Costa starts at left back. I think he goes with an unchanged back 4. And then I think the midfield is, has Jones somewhere in there. I'm not going to say who. And I'll say Nunez up top. But it won't shock me about Gakpo. But I think he really likes Gakpo on the left. So Chiesa and Gakpo for Diaz and Mo late, Jota for Nunez, and then who knows where the midfield goes. But that's how I see it panning out. I'll probably means none of those guys will start.
See, I figured, because Konate did not play and Kwanzaa did during the break, I figured Konate would get the Saturday, and then, but I do understand San Siro away and stuff like that. Maybe he doesn't want to put Kwanzaa in that situation. I do give credit to Kwanzaa, though, like his comments during the international break about being yanked at halftime. That's kind of like a concern I had, and I think we talked about it on the podcast over here, too. I think him basically coming out and saying, this is the same guy that was like, sucks to be Matip. So, he's going to say whatever he thinks, and he's going to be honest, because when he took over for Matip, he had like no mercy on poor Joel over there.
Wasn't the San Siro the spot Kwanzaa had his big surprise start in the Champions League? And then Ibrahimovic afterwards was like, I don't know who that kid was, but he was the best defender I played in a long time. And someone went, really? Virgil van Dijk. Someone went Virgil van Dijk, and he was like, no, the other kid. He put him in his pocket. I'm pretty sure there was a match where I think Kwanzaa got like a random start. Because didn't we play them in the Champions League just last year? Didn't we have AC Milan in the group stage? We played them at home and away. I'm pretty sure we did.
I know we had Inter Milan, but that was like 3 seasons ago because Bobby was around.
I think we had AC Milan last year.
James says well remembered. So I don't know if he's like confirming it or he is like.
No, I could be. I'm just saying it right now. It could be Reese Williams 5 years ago. I got lots of shit that causes problems, but I'm pretty sure they played them last year in the Champions League group stage, and AC Milan was in our group because we were in a tough group last year, and I thought it was AC Milan, and Kwanzaa got a start at the San Siro. But I could be totally wrong. Like, this could be a different rookie.
See, no, you're going to make me pull this up just in case. Last 2021.
Okay, so it wasn't him. It would have been.
Played them. Liverpool basically 3-2 at home, and we won 1-2 away. Looking at the lineup over here.
It must have been Reese Williams or one of those other young center backs.
You know who was there, my friends? Had made the most of his opportunity. Ox in the starting 11 over there.
Oh, of course it was.
Costas was there. Nat Phillips was there. Was it Nat? Maybe you're talking about?
Maybe no. There was. I remember there was like a big thing because it was like a huge thing. But I probably confused it with a different match for Kwanzaa in the Champions League last year because he had a few big performances. But I don't know that he'll start. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I think Nunez, the one thing for whatever reason, I feel like he'll get the start tomorrow, and win or lose, he'll probably either get all the credit or all the blame because he can never just be a part of the team. And I think to Paul's point, that might be part of the reason it hasn't worked yet for him is he's either the problem or the solution instead of just finding his way to be part of it. And I think that might
because
be
of how he plays too. Like when you don't have interplay, you either got to finish or you got to get the hell out. And I think that's what causes the issue there.
I don't think you're wrong, but again, you bought the player and you play to that player's strengths or weaknesses. Like I think that's part of where I don't see Holland having any interplay. He just finishes.
So but he finished, loves him. And I think if Nunez came in unfinished, we'd be like,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I think that's what everyone's waiting for. But to Paul's point, will we ever find out if that's there? If he doesn't get a run of 8 or 10 starts and playing with your best players from the beginning in big matches and building around what he does, it may lead to 6 draws. I'm not.
Or 18 offside. Yeah, I mean, he needs. Especially in the new system, he needs the opportunity. But going back to Kwanzaa, I guess like my biggest concern was how he would react to it. Him basically saying, "I suck, so I was yanked. Gonna have to make it better and play better." The manager was right, kind of a thing. I kind of like seeing that because I was kind of worried about how he would come in when he's called upon, because he's gonna have to be called upon either the Premier League or the Champions League in a big spot, one way or the other. And we need a confidence, kids, the way we play, especially building from the back and everything like that. So it was Nat Phillips' sisters. He puts his head everywhere. So he probably put his head in Ibrahimovic's head, so he got impressed. But On our way out, as always, let's finish with some crazy predictions. Bickler, give us your prediction for tomorrow.
I'll go 2-0 win.
2-0 win. The slot special, as I'm calling it from now on.
Mhm.
Gally, what do you have?
I'm going to go with the Timuchin special 3-1. Chiesa scores.
Chiesa score. Damn, these are crazy predictions. Okay. Does Nunez score? There's 2 goals to be had
No.
there.
There's no Nunez doesn't score, but he irritates people all night long.
Does Ben Davies score?
Better chance Ben Davies plays than Reese Williams or Nat Phillips.
You know what? This is right. Nat Phillips took the ball off Ibra in the penalty and then backheeled it past him. Is it that game?
That
I
is
remember
absolutely
that highlight.
true.
I remember that highlight. Probably the only highlight I remember from Nat Phillips. And then that goal he scored, actually.
I was just going to say, that swivel goal is one of the great defender
Yes.
goals. It's up there. It's
gotta
up there
talk
with
more about that.
Lovren. It's up there with Loveland. It's up there with Daniel Ager's swing. It's up there with Skirtle's
Oh, yes.
split from the top of the box. That might still be the best one ever. The swivel Skirtle from the top of the box, and then he does the slide across the field. And at the whole time, you're like, no single player is celebrating with him. And you're like, do they just hate this guy? He's just by himself. Like they're all like on the other side of the pitch.
What were you saying, Bickler?
I was just going to say, if you guys talk more about Nat Phillips, you're going to wake up Jamie from under his stack of cardboard boxes. They come out and
It's
No,
Jamie's
he's that. He
birthday
was-
today, I think. I just saw it on. If you do see Jamie, happy birthday, Jamie. If you're listening, probably he's not listening to this right now. He's probably, I don't even know if he's sober right now, partying for his birthday. But either way, happy birthday to Jamie over there. But I will go with 2-1. Brian Shelton is saying 2-1 as well. I do see a painful 2-1 coming, but I'm hoping for a good bounce back from this and gets, start off the Champions League. I think these guys, especially the big boys, probably miss being in the Champions League. And I think they go out there and kind of show that, especially as a response to Saturday's game. But we will be here right before the game for the pre-match show. So do tune in then. Gravenberg's biggest fan, John, is going to be hosting the pre-match. So tune into that. But it's for us this week. Finally, all together. Let's see if we can make this happen again next Monday. Until then, have a great week, everybody. Take care.